Hi everybody and welcome to the Friday episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. I hope you're all well who's watched along and also going to catch up on YouTube and all our audio platforms too. I'm joined by Ross. How you doing, buddy? And first of all, what are you drinking?
I'm doing fine, mate, and I'm having a wee pint of Guinness.
Love it.
I'm limiting
Love
myself to two because I'm going out a run at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Supposed to be.
Definitely. We'll be live at 7:30 tomorrow morning, so, you know, that's never going to happen. And James, what about yourself, mate? How's yourself and what are you drinking tonight?
I am all good. Looking forward to a wee therapy session, and I've got a wee half bottle of Bucky Thistle there, so that will see me through.
Decent, mate. I like that a lot. We're going to live it down. I'm on this. I mean, Ross said something totally fucked up before we come on. I'm not going to say it. It's called Molson Canadian Lager. It's the cheap stuff. It'll do for a Friday night. And I know there's loads of comments in already. But before I get to that, here's what's coming up. Like a TV show, isn't it?
About Matt O'Reilly yet again. Can you just bring us up to speed about where you're at with regards to a report of a bid from Atletico Madrid, please?
Yeah. Well, there was that, but Matt's obviously a player that we don't want to lose, and he won't be going anywhere in January.
Have to say, hats off to Willie who puts them together. They're absolutely fantastic. And look, there's comments already piling in. I do want to do an update on the Super Six. Alistair Jack is still out on top. Kieran second, Mark third, Stephen Coulthard fourth, Anthony Dunn in the middle, fifth, Joe Finley sixth, Brian Taylor seventh, Kevin Hampsey eighth, and our own Franny Carty is coming in at ninth. Can't see the 10th one because of the banner below, but it's all good. And I mean, Ross, there's been a lot of stuff happening. And in the comments, it's quite busy. Monty's in. He's already is our board fit for purpose. We're going to come on to that. Sam Fran, hail lads. CJ Black, looks like the board added again. No more January signings. And strange enough, the doctor, good evening, fellas. We'll have a lot of people in already very early on. And I know Carter-Vickers signed a new contract, but before we come on to that, obviously at the start of that wee clip there was the news that Atletico Madrid bidded or a loan obligation to buy type deal for Matt O'Reilly. We all knew he'd be attracting interest. And look, I can see obviously the board is getting a lot of flack, and we'll be on to that topic tonight. No worries. But I think that is a credit where it's due. I think Rodgers is very kind of robust in his thinking with Matt O'Reilly. He doesn't want to lose him in the January window. And it looks like by all accounts, even on the social medias, there's like wee clippets from it saying Matt O'Reilly will be staying with us past the January transfer window, which is good, leading into the summer transfer window. But your overall reaction to that, Rodgers coming out saying they've rejected the bid and he's going to be a Celtic player for the foreseeable future?
Well, I mean, it's one delight, absolute delight that our best player this season is staying with us. But first of all, my question to you is, what are you going to do as a forfeit? Because I think Gavin had said he would do one, and it looks like the ball's in your court, Stephen.
Wow. Never leave me alone,
I'm thinking something lacy.
No, mate, I don't mind. I've got the physique. I've got the legs. You want to put anything on me? I'll stand in front of this camera. No problem.
Nah, but seriously, it's great news that Matt O'Reilly's staying. And I mean, for me, it was never in doubt. I just don't think everybody goes on about Celtic's position in terms of what they've got terms of finances, and I just think that coupled with the fact that is that to me?
No, me.
Oh, aye, my Keeney forfeit, aye. That coupled with the fact that it's mid-season, he's our best player, or he has been our best player this season, I would have to say. I just think, even Gavin touched on it on Wednesday night. For to sell Matter, well, it wasn't even, it was a loan to buy, and then you're maybe getting 25 million in the summer, where you can keep him and help us for the push towards the league title and a £60 million windfall. It just didn't make sense financially or on the field, and I don't think it was ever in doubt for me. And I'm, as I said, delighted that he's going to be here. Take the summer. I'd said to you in the group chat, I'd already resigned myself long before now that we would lose him in the summer. I think that will be the case because his potential is. He could go almost anywhere he wants, but for the moment, delighted that he's staying at Celtic.
Yeah, it is good news, to be fair, James. And I feel like we're going to be talking about the board, the recruitment policies throughout this whole podcast. And I know Ross is really excited to do that. He's absolutely buzzing and chopping at the bit to get stuck in. But I mean, you look at it, it was a weird kind of structure to the deal. I think if we accepted that deal, more questions would be asked. Because we've done it before with Kearney, we've got the money up front. We've done it with Jota, we've got the money up front. And alone the obligation to buy. Look, I know you're guaranteed the money at the end, but it's a wee bit of a strange structure, especially from Atletico Madrid's point of view, because they could really afford that fee outright. But like Ross said, I think as Celtic fans, and look, we've had a wee bit of a play around on TikTok with different clips, and Willie put that together. Strange Love was in asking to play the Matt O'Reilly clip. I'm not fucking leaving. It was just fun. Yeah. But it's like, for him even as well, if Felipe will come knocking and the bid's confirmed, his head could have been turned. He could have been like, I want to go now. I won't get this opportunity in the future again. But it seems like him and Rodgers have had that chat. He's happy with the progress. He's happy with the development. And Rodgers has laid out a plan for him. And I think we're all resigned to maybe losing him sooner rather than later anyway.
Aye, I think it's a given he'll go in the summer, but I think that was kind of fairly evident before any bids come in this month. But overall, obviously, of course, it's a positive. As Ross was saying there, he's our best player this season, so of course I want them to kind of stay signed up. But don't get me wrong, I think if we had done offer 25 million or whatever on the table there and then, I think it might have been a different conversation. But that's neither here nor there. It never happened. So credit where it's due. Credit to O'Reilly as well, because he seems to have a really good head on his shoulders. Obviously, as you say, Atletico Madrid, it's not as if you're moving down to a middle of the road team down in England. They will genuinely have aspirations to go deep into the Champions League to try and win it, obviously. So I credit to O'Reilly for getting his head turned, and if he keeps it up, as we say, hopefully he'll have his pick of the teams in the summer for him to go to and start a bidding war.
A bit more is what we all want. Do you think that the same, Ross? I think James makes a good point, and like I genuinely believe if Felipe went, there's 25 up front, we'll take him. I think that would have been a done deal. Maybe the reason why Celtic rejected it, in my opinion, was it because it was a loan at first with no money up front. Are you on the same lines of thinking there, or do you just think Celtic just can't afford to let him go, and Rodgers was just so insistent on that transfer not happening?
I don't think that Celtic would have let him go in this window. I think we'll probably get into it, but I think as much as we all want to bring new signings in, I think as important was keeping our best players, such as Matt O'Reilly, Carter-Vickers, players like that, even Abada to an extent. I think that's as important, and I don't think the way Rodgers spoke in his press conference yesterday, I don't know if he's seen it. Is it yesterday? Aye, it was yesterday. It was just like point blank. We don't want to let any of our top players go. That's not what we're about now. We want to bring in that word that James loves, that quality. And it's not. He wasn't just saying quality though, because that's a generalisation. He was more specific in saying a certain type of quality, because quality could mean anything, and he's been saying quality for ages. And I agree with James, that has been getting on my goat. Like, just keep saying that, and it's mixed messages at times. But he's talking about yesterday a certain type of quality. But I don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Atletico Madrid came in and offered 60 million, of course Celtic would take it, because I don't think any other team in their right mind would offer 60 million to buy Matt O'Reilly. I think Matt O'Reilly is well worth £25 million. But as I said before, if they'd came in and offered £25 million, you weigh it up, Celtic weigh it up, and they go, well, if we let Matt O'Reilly go, that could jeopardise our title push, and then we lose out in 60 million. It doesn't really make sense financially, if nothing else, apart from on the field. So I never thought at any point, had it been 25 million, even 30 million to an extent, I still think Celtic would have rebuffed that in this window.
I'm on James's thinking here. I think we would have accepted that. If we were getting that money up front, I think we'd have been saying, Matt, here's your plane, take it over. But look, it's good news he's staying, so let's not dwell on a negative that's not happening at the minute anyway. And James, we talk about future planning, the recruitment team, and all that type of stuff, right? What about the replacement? Should Celtic really start looking at who to bring in here for the summer to replace him? Or is it Paulo Bernardo, that replacement? Obviously, the form he's shown, and people joke around, he has the demeanour of Matt O'Reilly, and people get confused with him and stuff like that. It's a bit of a laugh, but you have to understand as well, from my point of view, I think Bernardo's been excellent the last 4 games. He's contributed with goals, he's contributed with good assists, and it's what Matt O'Reilly does in a nutshell. Plus, he's good at the defensive side of things as well. So he can get up and down the pitch. He's mobile. He's box to box, which again is what Matt O'Reilly does. So, do we have the replacement under our nose? And I know Roger said the fee for Bernardo isn't out of the question. We can afford it, but it's up to him at the end of the day. So it's not an obligation; it's an option to buy, where Bernardo can still say no, much like Filipe Jota could have. Or do you think if we get whatever for him in the summer, which we're all resigned to him going there anyway, in terms of a transfer, do we need another player in as well, alongside of Bernardo, to kind of fill that void that O'Reilly would leave?
I think, if I'm being totally honest, I think Bernardo was brought in with a view to O'Reilly leaving next summer. Because at the time, it seemed a bit of a strange signing, in the sense that we've got loads of kind of midfield players, and by and large, they all pretty much want to do the same thing. Like O'Reilly, McGregor, Hatate, arguably the only one that has actually played this season and is maybe slightly different in the sense that he maybe wants to play more defensive is Iwata. So Turnbull as well is another one. They all kind of want to play their best football going forward in that kind of number 10 role. I know it's not really where they play, but it's a similar idea. So when we signed Bernardo in the summer, that was my initial thought. And don't get me wrong, he's been absolutely fantastic for the last month or so. I think it actually is a month, because it was kind of Boxing Day, wasn't it, that he came to the fore, really?
Yeah.
So for the last month, he's been excellent. Prior to that, he wasn't bad, but he was kind of bang average, if I'm being honest. He was just kind of there. So hopefully he keeps it up, and he looks as if he's going to. Hopefully that's just a case he's found his feet. I mean, obviously the manager sees something in him, because pretty much the only game time he was getting was in the Champions League games. So I in short, I think that Bernardo will be O'Reilly's replacement. I think we will sign another midfielder, but I think it'll be a mere kind of holding midfielder, because Rodgers has spoke about getting kind of physicality, and I know we all say it and we're all fed up hearing it, but a kind of a Wanyama type midfielder.
That's the one we've been on for years, hasn't it?
But I think with Rodgers, we've got a good chance of getting it. Because, as we say, it's kind of the players that he likes a wee bit bigger and physical for the spine of the team.
Yeah. I know, I get that 100%. That's what I was kind of pushing on, to see if you think we were signing on a midfielder. You're off the aspect of a physical midfielder, Ross, what James is saying there. Strange enough, the doctor comes in. There's no direct replacement for O'Reilly. He's a unit, as well as Crafty, with him without the ball. But then again, it wasn't that long when we were linked with Matt. We were like, fucking who? Yeah, again, that's another thing. The recruitment isn't for MK Dons. People can be kind of snobbery towards League One. I'm certainly guilty of it. I hold my hands up. So do you think, like what I asked James there, the replacement kind of search is already underway? Bernardo, I do think we will sign on a permanent. I think Rodgers is making noise about that already, because he's kind of come on to a game. he seems interested. And like what James said, no one really knew what he was brought in for at the start. He was playing the Champions League games. He was disappearing for the domestic games. But now, due to injury, he's got his run and he's doing quite well. So I think we will sign Bernardo. But if O'Reilly eventually leaves, I think we need someone in there with that kind of effect that he would have on a game.
Well, James might be surprised by this, but I'm in agreement with him. I know.
This is strong.
I know. For context, me and James me and James very rarely agree in the group chat, but no, I agree with James. I think that, listen, Celtic have been accused of not forward planning, and if Bernardo is going to be Matt O'Reilly's replacement, then for me that's forward planning. They've brought him in loan. He's 21-year-old. I think Matt O'Reilly, when he came into Celtic, was 21-year-old as well, albeit it was a permanent signing. But in the time for Bernardo came to Celtic to now, I think you can see that sort of natural progression. I think Brendan Rodgers is obviously doing his work with him, and he's coaching him well, and he's a better player now than what he was when he came in at Celtic. I don't think that can be argued. You give Bernardo another 6 months under Rodgers, and Matt O'Reilly goes in the summer. I think he's got a lot of the same attributes as Matt O'Reilly. I'm not saying by any stretch that he's as good as him. He isn't right now, but the potential's all there for him to be as good as Matt O'Reilly. And for me, if he progresses in the sort of trajectory that he has in the first 6 months for the next 6 months, then I would be more than content with Bernardo coming in. I don't like to say Matt O'Reilly's replacement as such, but I would be more than content to pay $6 million for Bernardo and have him in the team, and it fills that void, if you like, that Matt O'Reilly leaves. But as I think it was Strangelove the Doctor said, you don't replace Matt O'Reilly because he's so good right now, and it's similar when you look at Jota. Like Jota, he's irreplaceable to an extent. These guys, like they came in, right, and they were signed. Well, Jota came in loan, but he was signed for $6 or $6.5 million. Matt O'Reilly was signed for $1.5. They didn't come in as £25 million players, but they're leaving as £25 million players. Not for Celtic. Celtic don't replace £25 million players. They try and get what they had before and make them another £25 million player, and you keep a hold of them for as long as you possibly can. And in the modern day, that's becoming more and more difficult. But to answer your question, I'd be more than happy for Matt O'Reilly for Bernardo to be signed in the summer to sort of fill that void to an extent. And as I said, in agreement with James, I would listen. I like Abata. It looks for all the world that he isn't going to be Brendan Rodgers' guy, but I totally agree. I would like to see somebody in there with a bit more physicality, because I think most of the midfielders we've got all want to do the same thing, and we need that sort of a bit more battle in the team, a bit more physicality. I think that does lack. And we've been saying that, Stephen, for a couple of years now, to be perfectly honest.
100%. Yeah,
but
we were called for a while at the start, no, remember, with Conor McGregor and the double pivot, the Plug Wednesday show. you know what I mean? But
double pivot.
What I want to say is 19 minutes, 18 seconds in, chalk that number down, because that's the last time Ross and James are probably going to agree this whole podcast. So that's Strangelove the Doctor. The balance in the midfield with Matt O'Reilly, Cal Mack and Bernardo was really good. It might even be hard for Rio to find a spot if they keep playing how they are. Bernardo doing what Moy did last season. Don't really agree with that. I think Bernardo's a better player in my opinion, but I do get what you're saying. Monty, build a team for the domestic game and get utterly embarrassed in Europe. Peter Lowell. I think this is a good point by Celtic 67. Bernardo will be learning a lot from O'Reilly, and to be fair, they're both similar ages. But yeah, it's a brilliant point though, because again, it seems like Bernardo kind of finding his game at the minute with Celtic and what his role actually is, and he probably is learning a bit like Matt as well, because he seems to be a leader, even though he's really young in the team.
You can sort of see. Sorry, Stephen, but I've just got to say off the back of that, you can sort of see the appreciation on the pitch between each player on each other's game. I think Matt O'Reilly, actually, if I remember right, I think he set up Bernardo's the first goal against Bucky Thistle, and obviously when Bernardo was celebrating, you seen that sort of like conversation between the two of them.
Camaraderie.
You can tell, you don't know what they're saying, but you can tell that there's the appreciation for the pass and then the finish. So I definitely agree with that point.
Yeah, Monty again's flying in with comments. Question: is this board pushing the teams onwards and upwards? Are they? If not, why not? We're going to come onto the board in a wee second, Monty. Trust me, it's my favourite topic. You all know this. I love talking about the board. But Ross, But James, another bit of good news that came out today, kind of breaking news around, I think it was in mid-afternoon. Cameron Carter-Vickers signed a 5.5-year contract. There was a late bid, I think, from a Qatari club to get him. I think that was rejected by Celtic. And to be fair, I don't think Vickers will want to go there in this stage of his career. But for another kind of victory, for us to tie down Carter-Vickers, O'Reilly, Kyogo, Leilabada, we're definitely tying down the assets. And I think Carter-Vickers was the last in a long queue. And again, it's another great bit of business to do that.
Aye, definitely. It's good to get the occasional nugget of good news in and amongst the doom and gloomy of this transfer window. See if I'm being totally honest, I know it's not really what you've asked. I'd maybe take a wee bit of hope, maybe the wrong word, but maybe take a wee bit of hope for the fact that we haven't held on to that till deadline day to announce it as genuinely though, because I don't think the board are that tone deaf. So I take that there's absolutely no weight behind anything I'm saying, but I just take that as the slightest glimmer that we've no held on to it as we've done previously to announce stuff on deadline day. So fingers crossed that I'll be saving Rocco Vata for deadline day. Is that what it is? Is that our new striker?
By the way, see as clinical as Lawrence Shankland is, James is cynical.
Are you happy, James? Are you happy that he signed the contract?
Aye, of course, aye. Delighted. Obviously, he's the best centre back in the league, probably by quite some distance, if we're being totally honest. Aye, delighted. Great news that he's signed up.
Paul McFarlane, James, we don't have occasional nuggets. The board are all nuggets. Sam from Ross, Carter-Vickers is here for 9 in a row. Jed Thomas, Carter-Vickers is the best defender by a country mile. And for me, like alongside Scales, Naraki, Stephen Welsh, I think it's a kind of great core to have there, isn't it? With him signing that new contract.
Oh, absolutely. I touched on it earlier. To keep our big players such as Carter-Vickers, O'Reilly, I think it's as big as getting some signings in, because I think we'll get into it further. But
we're getting into it.
No easy. It's no easy to get the certain type of quality that Brendan Rodgers is wanting to get. But getting him tied down. Listen, it doesn't mean a great deal in terms of he'll still be able to leave. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we've locked him up, but it gives us the sort of more power holding the cards, if you like, when teams do come in, and you can demand a bigger fee because he's got a longer contract. And listen, again, it's good as well because Carter-Vickers is happy to sign on. He's wanting to be here. He doesn't want to go to that late bid, wherever it was you said, like it was at Qatari or something.
Qatari club, yeah. Qatari.
Yeah, aye. Listen, he wants to be here. And he has been injured a lot this season. So, if I'm being honest, I didn't expect him to leave because I don't think teams are going to go in for a guy that has had these sort of last 6 months have been up and down fitness wise. They want to see him playing for a more prolonged period again before they come in with bids for him. But I think at some point it will happen if he continues the form that he showed in the first couple of years.
Yeah, I think that happened with Rio Tate in the summer. He got in. I know it sounds bad, but he got injured at the right time. No club would take advantage of it. When he came back, he was starting to find form again. Then he got injured again, so no one's actually benefited from it. Do you know what I mean? But by all accounts, he had a good game there for Japan against Indonesia. I see Jake Black comes in. Is Scales getting a new contract? I do believe so. I think Rodgers confirmed there is talks happening there in the background. Sam Fram with the dreaded one. Carter-Vickers is back like a new signing. Oh, jeez, the MO chestnuts, eh? But we're going to get into it as we've been referring to, James. And we'll start with It's quite simple.
We'll see you later.
Right, if you go back, I would say maybe November time, Roger started making noise about your favourite word, quality players. A few more quality additions. It turned in from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. December time, he was still making the same noise about getting quality players in the door. Now, from his latest press conference, I've kind of got the slight feeling that he's preparing us for a slow end of the transfer window with the wording and phrasing he's using. I think it's the old cliche of it's hard to do business in January, top targets won't come, all the usual stuff that we're used to hearing. But what I kind of asked myself is, and what I asked in the podcast chat as well, why was he saying that from early on November right up to January transfer window? Because I don't think the recruitment team went on January 1st, switched the lights on. So and they're like, let's get to work. This should be a process that's been happening continuously and evolving over time from the summer windows to the winter months, and keep that going, that cycle. It just seems like to me now that Rodgers has just resigned himself to getting what he has, and he's also said again he's happy with the squad and he likes coaching them and trying to improve the players he gets. That's what you have to do as a manager. But the whole quality chat has seemed to have disappeared, and he was referencing as well about the money issue. He said, and I do agree with this, he said Celtic couldn't sign a £20 million player because that would come with £20 million wages. That's fair. That's a fantastic point to make, because I think some people were wanting that, but it's kind of unrealistic. But he did mention maybe the £6 to £7 to £8 million bracket is somewhere we can shop in, like we have with Jota and Carter-Vickers. But there's just nothing happening. And on Twitter, on the socials, on the comments, very early on, what's going on? Where's the kind of drive to bring players in? We've got Endless Celts. By all accounts, he looks good. But we all knew, Rodgers knew, we needed more than that.
Well, Ross has actually already said it earlier. And I genuinely think it's something that we're getting out more or less pre-planned. Again, tinfoil hat on, cynical heat on, pre-planned. It's difficult to sign players in January. No, it's no. It's difficult to sign players in February. It's difficult to sign players in March. January is a transfer window. That is the point of January. Understand the point that it might be slightly more difficult to pry a player, like we've done with O'Reilly. You can't pry a player away that's performing well in a top team. I understand that. It's not impossible. I wouldn't even go as far to say it's massively difficult in the markets that we would be shopping in. I think we'd probably be quite an attractive proposition. We've seen across the road, across the water, they're signing players. I dare say we'll probably be shopping in the same markets. We were both linked with Palma. I stand to be corrected, but I think we were both linked with Kühn. Maybe it was just paper talk. So I don't buy that for a second. January is a transfer window. And the other thing that I took away from it was, if Rodgers is now a rookie manager. This isn't Rodgers' first season as a manager. Rodgers has been the course and distance. He's had a great career behind him. If Rodgers genuinely believes that it's nigh on impossible to sign players in January, firstly, why is he spouted non-stop about quality for the last 2-3 months? Secondly, the positions that I think we would all agree, apart from Ross, that he's replacing is goalkeeper. I think we would all agree that. Left back, I know we'll probably touch on that at some point, and striker. Striker, I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt. As much as I don't believe it, I'm willing to give benefit of the doubt, because at the start of the season, we probably had a wee bit more faith in Lowe than we've got now. And obviously, Kyogo's got a bad shoulder that's waiting on surgery. So, right, so to go back to what I'm saying, sorry, if Rodgers genuinely believes it's that difficult to sign players in January, and he spouted on about quality for the last 3 months, why were these positions not addressed in the summer? Everybody could see that it was glaringly obvious we needed a left back. You could argue we even need a right back. We needed a goalkeeper. And as I say, willing to give benefit of the doubt, but really we needed a striker as well. We knew that in the summer. We done nothing. We established an 8-point lead or 11, whatever it was, and everything was rosy. That then went tits up, and that's when this talk of quality started. We now sit here on the 26th of January, and the quality chat is starting to, thankfully, taper down. We haven't signed quality. As I said last week, and I probably took a bit of stick for it, for me, Kühn isn't a quality signing. That's not me saying Kühn's a bad player. It's not me saying he's a bad signing. But is he somebody that's going to come in and instantly take a starting spot and improve that team? Up for debate, but for me, I don't think so. So that's that side of it. The second side with what you've seen there about the scouting department coming in the 1st of January and switching the light on. Now, granted, this is just all rumours, but if you believe what we've read in the papers, we've obviously had an interest in Owen Beck for Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
I would be hard-pressed to say that anybody would have had their eyes on Owen Beck in the summer when he signed for Dundee. He didn't sign for Dundee over Celtic. Celtic were not interested in Owen Beck in the summer. So the position that was so glaringly obvious for everybody, apart from the people that mattered within the club, that was so glaringly obvious in the summer, our number one target for that position, who it looks like we're not going to get, is a guy that's only presented himself to us within the last 6 months. So how can that be our one and only target? That's just sheer negligence. There was talk of that, was it Thiago Araujo? He's still
from
available.
Esteroli. Yeah.
Yep, he's still available. If we want him, I think we've been told the asking price was at 4.5 million. Whatever it was, we weren't willing to pay it. Then everything's went into Owen Beck, a guy that's presented himself to us within the last 6 months. So that's kind of my take on January. And then just to conclude my rant with what you were saying, or what Rodgers was saying about this £20 million site. We can't go and sign a £20 million player. Nonsense. Nobody's asking us to go and sign a £20 million player. Nobody expects us to go and sign a £20 million player. It's a nothing statement. It'd be as well going out and saying we can't sign Lionel Messi. Everybody knows we can't do that. We don't expect us to do that. What we do expect us to do is maybe go. We've just sat and had a back-parting session at the AGM, and we've told us we've got 70 million there in the bank. We're playing for 60 million this year, and I don't think that 70 million included the Champions League money for this season that we've just played in. So you're sitting circa £100 million in the bank, and you're playing for 60 million. They've done it with 10 in a row, and they're looking to do it again with a 60 million pot. They're gambling 60 million, and there is absolutely no need for them to do it. There is no excuse for them to do it. And I think this time, I don't think there's anywhere for them to turn. I don't think they can point and say that we tried, because nobody's going to swallow it. You can't have a back-parting session telling us you've got all this money in the bank, cash reserves and everything, and then come out and say, see the guy we wanted at left-back? They were asking for £1 million more than we wanted. See if you value him at a certain amount and you want him in your team and you believe he's genuinely quality, what's £1 million? Do you know what I mean? Look, we're sitting here and we're talking about Matt O'Reilly, 20 to 30 million. That's a £10 million bracket. And we're haggling out a £1 million bracket. It just stinks. And it's something that we've seen before. All this nonsense, and I will get to the end soon, but all this nonsense that we've seen about, we look to
keep going, mate. Keep going.
Every transfer window, we look to come out stronger. Bullshit. Absolute nonsense. Doesn't happen. Will we come out this window stronger? Arguably. And the only reason that's arguable, we've got rid of players that didn't contribute, and we've signed one player in a position that me personally, unless Abada leaves, which I think we'll come on to discuss, I think he will, then arguably we don't necessarily need, we're quite flooded with wingers. So I'll take a breath now, but that's where I'm at. I honestly, I know Ross is gone, but I just find it so difficult to disagree with anything I've said there. I honestly, I just feel as if it's staring you in the face. Or I don't even say that to be a dick, but I genuinely, I don't understand how you can make an excuse after they've had a back-parting session. I mean, they put a statement up in the website telling us about cash reserves and stuff like that. And as I say, they've gambled 10 in a row. They're now gambling £60 million. Do I think we've got the best team in the league? This isn't me waving a white flag for the league title. I still genuinely believe that we've got the best starting 11 in Scotland. I genuinely believe that. But then you look into the rest of the squad, out with centre mid and out with arguably centre back. I would say centre back as well. Centre mid and centre back. The rest of the squad is piss poor. I mean, you're looking at guys like, as I said in the group chat, if Kyogo gets injured, and he's bearing in mind he's got a gummy shoulder needing treatment, if Kyogo gets injured, we've got O. Do we trust O to carry us into the business end of the season with a 2-point lead? I don't personally. Greg Taylor is injured, Alexandro Bernabe is now our only recognised left back. Do we trust him? I definitely don't. Or is Mitchell Frame all of a sudden became good enough to get back into the pool because he absolutely has to? And then Alistair Johnson, no had a great season. I think he still got some credit in the bank for last year. But he's back up as Tony Ralston. Tony Ralston at best splits opinion. He doesn't do it for me. So I think that's pretty poor as well on that side. And then the goalkeeper, I mean, Joe Hart is the best of a bad bunch. If Joe Hart gets injured, then honestly, I'd fucking be looking to play Hoopy in goals or something like that. Because it's just so poor out with centre back and centre mid. We've got numbers, but we've not got this quality that we've spoke about. That I disagree with that. I think Palma has got quality. I think Maeda has his uses, but I think he's a winger that's best work's done defensively. But after that, it really is much a muchness. Yang doesn't do anything for me. Tillio doesn't do anything for me. Forrest is finished. And Mikey Johnson is Mikey Johnson. But apart from that, I'm delighted that Cameron Carter-Vickers is signed.
I mean, to be fair to you, James, I can feel the passion from you, and I do. Like, I appreciate that a lot. And much of what you said, I'm on board with. Do you know what I mean? I 100% am. And it's like, I think there was rumours as well.
I'm just happy you didn't ask me to repeat that.
There was rumours you on about haggling fees. Apparently, we were haggled over 300,000 for Nicholas Kühn towards the end. That was something that was in the mainstream. I mean, so that side of the board hasn't gone away. I mean, that's a famous saying over here. Haven't gone away, you know. But if anyone gets it in the comments, you know what I mean. But it's Ross. If me and you have sat back loads of times having a beer on a Monday or a Friday, and we've went at it for hours and hours about the board. And I agree with James to an extent where I don't know how. Yeah, you can make a case 100% because it's opinion based and we all like opinions. But he's right in a sense that the board had a session at the AGM bumming the finances up, and they were talking about backing the manager then. There's financial things in place to back him. They said that openly. And just nothing seems to be happening. I know we've got Nicholas Kühn over the line, and James, I cannot disagree with you on the front that maybe he's not a quality signing, but don't know yet because he hasn't kicked the ball. Do you know what I mean? He hasn't kicked the ball for us at the moment, and by all accounts, at Rapid Vienna, he was decent. And what I noticed as well, in the comments, it spiked. When we started talking about the board, boom, it was bang, 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 bang. Yeah. And I would say 90% of the comments are probably saying, I mean, there's Stephen Murdoch. Go on yourself, James. Do you know what I mean? And it's like people understand the frustration. And I sometimes hear the words entitled or spoiled or that because some people are expecting more from the board. I don't agree with that because from my point of view, I want Celtic to be better and come out of these windows stronger. And again, I disagree with James. We're not coming out of this window stronger. We're actually coming out weaker if you take away what we've let that go and the only addition we've brought in necessarily. Do you know what I mean? When we need other areas of the pitch strengthened. But where do you sit on it? What do you think's going on? And then again, I don't know, man. Just take it away.
Listen, there's a lot of what James said that I can't disagree with. Like, I don't necessarily think that we needed to replace Greg Taylor as our left back, but we certainly needed to bring another left back in to challenge him or take his place because Bernabe isn't good enough. That hasn't happened so far. Joe Hart, again, I think probably I'm a bit like Anthony. I wouldn't like to replace your keeper in the summer, but I've said before, unless it was like a marked improvement on Joe Hart, then and it's a deal that can be done, then go and do it. But I'm not overly keen, as I say, to replace your keeper mid-season. But there's a couple of things, like James said there, that we gambled 10 in a row and now we're gambling with a £60 million. I don't think we gambled 10 in a row. I think there was a lot of things that went against Celtic, but in that summer leading up to 10 in a row, we spent the best part of £20 million. We spent it poorly, definitely, but we didn't gamble with the 10 in a row because we spent enough money that had we got the recruitment right, we should have went on and won the league title. But that the poor recruitment, coupled with the fact that there was guys promised that they could leave and then we couldn't let them leave, and then obviously COVID and all the rest of it, I think that played a big part. I don't think Celtic gambled with that season.
But,
and then I look at it and
no, sorry, I've no want to interrupt you. I was just going to say, I've talked about the gambling. I just think pointing Neil Lennon when we appointed him, that for me just overrules everything. It should never have happened, and it, as I said, that for me is the gamble.
Oh, that's fair enough, but I mean, they appointed him maybe a year and a half before the 10 season, and he'd done a treble, and then he'd done a treble again. So, I mean, as much as probably in hindsight they shouldn't have given Neil Lennon the job, he had done well in his first stint to an extent, and then he came in and he won every trophy available to him. So to not give him the job was, listen, it probably would have been harsh at the time, but for me at the time I didn't think he should have got the job. But as by the by, in terms of the gambling with the 60 million now, if Celtic were if the Celtic board are so money orientated and so thrifty, like everybody says, why would they gamble with a possible £60 million windfall? I don't think. Listen, as I say, there's a lot I agree with what James said there, right? But I don't think. I just can't believe for a second. This is just me. I just can't believe for a second. People think that the Celtic board are sitting on their hands and going, "Nah, fuck that. I'm not signing him. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that." I don't think for a second. I think they are trying to sign players. And listen, you can take for what Rodgers said in his press conference, whichever way you want. And for me, he did. You could say, as you said, Stephen, that he's maybe setting us up for a slow end to the window. And by the way, he's left it open to that, but he's also said that we might get signings in. They are still working, but as I said before, he's want a certain type of quality. Celtic were slated in the summer, and rightly so, for a scattergun sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? A scattergun approach. That's it. To the signings, and at the time, I didn't like, as much as I defended the sort of. I never really defended the signings. I just said I'm not what to like slate these guys when I've not seen them kick a ball. But when they were signing these players, I didn't see a sort of plan, because it was that scattergun approach, and they were slated for it, and rightly so. With hindsight now, listen, it wasn't a good summer window. There's a couple of guys that have done pretty good. Bernardo's coming onto a game. Palma's done well in fits and starts. Home hasn't had a lot of football. So, I mean, overall, it wasn't a great summer window. And now, for me, albeit they've only signed one player, but now it looks to me, the way Brendan Rodgers is talking, that it's a more measured approach, and there's a plan, and they want to sign a certain type of quality. And for whatever reason,
you're going to send him over the fucking edge.
No, but,
for whatever reason, it hasn't happened.
Sorry, this is going to turn into question time, man. But you're saying a certain type of quality. What does that mean?
Well, it means I don't know what it means, right? But for me, my take on it is that it means a level up for what we signed in the summer, not guys that are going to come in and sort of.
Can I throw something at you, Ross, that might actually help what you're saying there? Rodgers did say he's been offered players by the recruitment team, and he said no because he wants a certain quality in. So I think that's probably
because
what it is.
He's sort of went with it in that summer window because he was overseeing what he had, but he was still bringing these guys to me or whatever, and we'll get them in, and he's trusting himself. He He'll bring these players in and he'll coach them, because he said it in his press conference yesterday that he thrives on that as well. But as I was saying, I think that there's a more measured approach to this window, and Rodgers is, I think, in the background, adamant that there's a certain type of quality that he wants. But for me, that is a level up for what we've just signed in the summer, right? And listen, people will say that this is an excuse, saying that the January transfer window is hard to sign players, but it's not an excuse. I've heard this in the last sort of 6 months for the Celtic supporters saying that it's an excuse. It isn't an excuse. It's a renowned fact. Every club says it, that it's difficult to get players in. And the very fact, for me, is a prime example that Atletico Madrid, a huge club in the European stage, have come in and tried to sign Matt O'Reilly. And Celtic have just, no, you're not getting him, because we're not losing one of our prized assets mid-season when we're trying to reach our goals in the second half of the season. And I think that's what Celtic are going in for this. I'm not want to say that word again, it starts with Q, but they're going in for this certain type. And they are faced with the same thing as what Atletico Madrid have been faced with Celtic, albeit it's not to the same level of signing. It's Celtic are faced with the same problem, but a little bit lower down in the food chain. I'm not saying I'm delighted with this January window. I'm not, but I'm at the stage now, off the back of that summer window, that if Celtic and Brendan Rodgers, certainly Brendan Rodgers more so, can't get the targets that he wants in this window, and they're not available, I don't want Celtic just to sign somebody just for the sake of it, to get a body in, to appease the fans. I really don't. I just want Celtic... No, let me finish. I just want Celtic to be measured and just get in who they want. And if we have to wait till the summer, so be it, right? And people are panicking now because Greg Taylor's injured, right, for the next few games. And it's not great, right? But we've got Bernardo who can come in, right? And I know, listen, I've slated that guy. He's not good enough long term for Celtic. Can he come in and do it for 2 or 3 games? It remains to be seen, right? I've also said that I don't think Liam Scales is the answer for left back to replace Greg Taylor for whatever period of time, right? But for a few games, Celtic have got the scope where they can go to a back 3. They could put Liam Scales out to left back and play Navrocki alongside Carter-Vickers. They can also play Bernardo at left back and keep their central pairing Carter-Vickers and Scales. So all is not lost here defensively. It's a few games. Greg Taylor can come back in and do well. For me, in this window, Brendan Rodgers spoke about 4 players coming in. I never thought for a second that would happen. I didn't think we'd get out all the players that we wanted to get out. I wanted us to keep our prized assets, which we're going to do by the looks of things. I wanted us to get a winger in, which we got in, and I wanted us to get a striker in. Whether that happens or not, I would like us to sign Miovski. Now, I know that Aberdeen are talking about £4 and £5 million, and for to spend that on somebody that will essentially be a backup striker it's not great. But listen, if Celtic fans are complaining that the English clubs come in and lowball us with players, then we can't then lowball Aberdeen. Do you know what I mean? But I think the thing with Miovski is if we get him, he's probably in about 7 to 10 grand a week. So if we get him for £4 or £5 million, right, we'll no need to pay him 30 grand a week. We could probably pay him 20 grand a week. So wages wise, I think it makes sense, but it is a high fee. But I would like us to get a striker in, and then listen, we look at the goalkeeper and we look at the left back. If we can't get somebody in to challenge Greg Taylor in this window, which it looks like we probably won't now, we look at the areas in the summer, and we must look at the areas in the summer that I concede. But I don't think I think there's enough in this squad to go and win the league. As does James, as do you, Stephen, absolutely.
But
I don't think it's as dire.
That's not the point.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not the point. I know it's not the point. I've made my point before that, and I'm just saying that I'm not overly panicked. I would like us to do the business that I want them to do, but if they don't, I'm quite happy to wait to the summer to get the targets that Brendan Rodgers, would want ultimately, rather than just get a body in. And I think in the meantime, we've still got enough in the team to go and win the league.
Yeah, I just think that, I know obviously it kind of divides opinion, but Greg Taylor, I maybe talking out of school, but I think maybe 90% of the support would agree that Greg Taylor is the weak link in the team, probably along with Joe Hart. Well, the way I'll put it is, I think they would agree that that's the two positions that need replaced the most. And
sorry, James, I'm not being ignorant, but I'm just going to nip away for a wee second. I'm really, I do want to listen to you, but I'm sorry.
I'll still be talking when you come back. It's fine. No, but we've spent pretty much we've spent for the summer discussing how Greg Taylor probably isn't going to be good enough in the role that he's being asked to play. We find ourselves now sitting in a transfer window that isn't shut yet, trying to talk up his replacement that has been deemed absolutely horseshit to this point. And we're saying that if he comes in, then he could be good enough. We've got a manager that sat at his unveiling press conference and spoke about progress in Europe and want to kick on in Europe. We won a game this year. Fucking get the bunting up. We still finished 4th. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? We still finished 4th. But he sat at his unveiling press conference and spoke about progress in Europe. Then for the last however many months, as we've all spoke about, we keep hearing about quality. We've got a few days left of this transfer window, and he's now telling us, he's basically preparing us for disappointment, and he's telling us that it's difficult to do business in January, and he needs to coach what he's got. Firstly, the coach what he's got thing, I get that.
He said that in the summer. He said that in the summer.
Exactly. I get that, because at the end of the day, that is a manager's job. But the quality thing, how can you go for literally non-stop talking about quality in November, and then when the window is still open, start telling us how hard it is to get quality in January?
Can I say something? And look, it kind of adds to your point, James, as well. And Ross, what you were saying, you said something, Ross, that kind of sparked me a wee bit. You said that you'd rather wait till the summer to get the targets that Rodgers wants in instead of bringing a body in. My kind of point to that would be was, when that summer transfer window shut, he should have been, or I kind of assume he would be in recruitment meetings saying, this is the profile of player I want, this is who I need, this is what positions I need strengthened. Mark Lowell should have went and done his job with the rest of the scouting team and recruitment team at that time. So I don't know how you've got between August to January and you can't find 3 players that would come in and definitely add to your squad. That to me baffles me. And I have to say one thing. I do want to make something clear here in the comments. I know I haven't read a lot out. I'm not ignoring anything. I'm reading them. I'm taking them on board, and I'm trying to relay them back to Ross and James as well in a roundabout way. So there's a lot of people saying it in the comments. Sam Fran, by the way, Ross agrees with you. Strains of the Doctor is kind of veering on your side as well. But there's people saying these positions need to sort it out 2 years ago. That we've been crying out for a left back, a striker, a couple of other positions. So the recruitment team are well versed in what we need. And if Rodgers said, I want to level up, surely 4 months is enough to find a player who would be the level up from what they were scouting. No, it's just what I'm seeing in the comments here.
Right, well, firstly, on the left-back situation, right, I know that it's been needed addressed. Greg Taylor has seen off, like people have said, Greg Taylor's seen off many a left-back, right, but most of them have been shite, right? So that's another reason why I think, like, we've had enough Bernardos, we've had enough ball and goalies, we've had enough whoever the fuck else Greg Taylor has seen off, right? They're not good enough. I don't want us to sign another Bernardo, another whoever. I want us to get it right. I want us to sign a guy who's going to challenge Greg Taylor or take his place. That's all I want. And if we have to wait to the summer for that, rather than sign another Bernabei in a rushed, and I know you've said they've had months, right? And what I will say with that is, I was going to say in a rush sort of signing there, but they have had months to prepare for this, right? But it doesn't matter how many months you've got to prepare. You can scout players, look at them, and decide, right, this is the guy I want in the 4 months. But when the window opens and you go for that guy, if the team don't want to sell him, that's not Celtic's fault.
But is that not the same in the summer as well? If a club doesn't want to sell, they won't sell.
But it's a larger
window,
space of time
bigger
in
gap.
the window, and it's not mid-season. Teams are preparing, and you expect comings and goings to happen. In January, I think most teams try and get rid of players that they're not going to use, try and get them out on loan if they think that they might be of value to them the season after, but they're getting football. Keeping players that they've already got, keeping a hold of them. I think that's what January's about. And if you can, listen, people have made the case, and it wasn't difficult for Ange. Ange was signing guys for Japan. He signed Maeda, Ideguchi and Hatate in the one go. Maeda worked out and Hatate worked out. Ideguchi didn't. But it was the end of the Japanese season. So they were more sort of willing to let players go, and like Ange was very accustomed to that market. After that, well, like, in that same January window, he signed Matt O'Reilly. He was the second choice, so you could say to an extent he got lucky with that one. The following January, he signed Alistair Johnston. That was it. It's one signing. Brendan Rodgers had one January window. He's made one signing so far. We can't say whether Kühn is going to be a success or not, but if he is, well, that's as successful as last January when we had Ange at the helm. So,
Mate, I will agree with you in that front, to be fair, because I think there has been a bit of a rewriting of history around Ange and his transfer windows. I love Ange. I wish he never left, obviously, but there was a fair share of duds signed, and amongst that, your Kobayashis, Haksabanovic, there was a few duds in there. But this notion that the board were all in Ange right for the get-go and we had this rebuild, Ange had to basically put the board in place early doors. What was it he said about
not being forceful enough?
Aye, there wasn't enough aggression or something in the recruitment department. So I don't think Ange is and look, we didn't know this at the time. If we're being honest, we didn't know anything about him. I think when he came in, a lot of people maybe thought he was a yes man, myself included. We were wrong. But I think he would have enough about him to go and be like, look, this isn't good enough. If this doesn't happen, I'm off or whatever. I don't know why, and I don't have anything to back it up, but I just don't. I don't think Rodgers has that about him, and I don't know why. If I'm being honest, I don't really understand Rodgers coming back to Celtic in this situation. Like, when you think when Rodgers left Celtic with the whole Marian Shved thing, and then obviously no signing McGinn, Castagna, James Justin, all these guys, a few of them that he went on to sign for Leicester. And to me, it feels like he's literally just walked back into the same scenario. It's all the same faces, just in different roles in the boardroom. And when he put his wee comment out about having a good relationship with the board, and surprisingly, his name hasn't. It's easy for me to say. Fucking Lobble, I'll just say his name.
I thought you morphed into me there, James. You took a horrible form.
I'll take the marbles with my mouth and try again. No, but he's not been. We've not even mentioned his name, and look, that's a kind of different avenue to go.
Well, I want to throw something at you, James, while you're talking. Where does Mark Lawwell sit in this? The recruitment team, right? So Rodgers gives the profile of what he's looking for. There's Ross Ditson again. Rodgers gives the profile of what he's looking for. It's Mark Lawwell's job and his team who's around him to sort that out and bring up a list of targets. So where does he sit? I necessarily don't think. I mean, if you look back with Lee Congreton, Nick, who was it? Nick Hammond, and another fella as head of recruitment under Brendan's first time. I don't think that went too well.
No.
So with Mark Lowell, it seems we go down the same road. So what's the issue, and where does the recruitment team stand on it as well?
Well, if I said when probably it would have been on the Jungle Gyms podcast, but when Rodgers first came in, my main concern, and history I think backs up, not even just at Celtic but across his whole career, his recruitment, barring a few absolute gems, obviously was Scott Sinclair, but by and large his recruitment hasn't been great. I think his best football that he played at Celtic in his first spell was largely his team, they weren't his signings. But then that's where you think, right, well, we've got this guy in, I'll not even mention his surname yet, but everybody kept telling us about how good this guy was, and he'd done this for Man City, and he was in the City group, and he was a Doug's bollocks, basically. The guy's been posted missing. We've not heard a peep from him, and look, I'm not saying he's going to fucking come out after matches and give interviews and everything, but there is literally, I don't even think there was anything when he was appointed. And I'll ask the question that I asked at the time, and it still stands to reason the day. If we advertised for that position, who did Mark Lowell beat in the recruitment process?
Me.
Was there a recruitment process, or did the name just fit? If I've got my tinfoil hat on, and I don't think it's a stretch, I think the name just fitted, and he came in fucking Guardiola's T-boy or whatever job he done at Man City. So you've got that issue as well.
I'd be daft to try and argue against that. I would not argue against that.
So that's a separate issue in itself. As I say, I don't understand why Rodgers has come in, but then it just stinks of nepotism, and it's treating out the boardroom into the recruitment department.
James, I also found it funny in the AGM that Nigel Nicholson put Mark Lowell firmly at Postecoglou's door. Do you remember that? He was basically saying that it was Postecoglou's choice.
Aye, well, I had to laugh at that as well. I can't mind if it was on here or the group chat or just talking to somebody in general, but I said as well, remember obviously the Eddie Howe saga? See, when that got to its conclusion, again, we'll never know the truth, but the rumour was it was because the Eddie Howe wanted to bring in his own director of football, head of recruitment, whatever title you want to give it, but he wanted to bring in his own man. I think that he worked with at Bournemouth, and the talk at the time was you can't mark your own homework, that can't happen, because when the manager leaves, you need the person to stay. Lowell stayed, I get that, so it kind of deflates the argument, but the point being that you can't bring in your own man, you can't mark your own homework. So then 2 years later, the board come out and says, the manager wanted him, and it just so happened that it was our chairman's son. Doesn't really kind of smack you a real thought out kind of quality appointment. It's just nepotism. That is it in a nutshell. It's just sheer nepotism.
Yeah, and again, it's hard to argue with it. And like what Ross said, the head of recruitment should be a place that's kind of a highly kind of qualifications and stuff like that, the right type of stuff. I mean, you look at, and I know we don't like talking about them, but they appointed, I think it was the Farnod head of recruitment. He worked closely with Clement before, and they've signed a couple of players. Look, that happens. That's fair enough. But I feel like for me anyway, kind of rounding off in this kind of bit that the future planning at Celtic is non-existent. And I know Ross mentioned Bernardo. Yeah, that's again, that might be a succession to Matt O'Reilly, but I don't think it was a direct succession for Matt O'Reilly in my opinion. It's just so happened that he's quite similar and he's come on to the game and that.
I don't think it can be though with a player of that quality.
Yeah.
That's what was my point as well.
Yeah, no, I get that 100%. And remember Dominic Mackay came in, he was bringing all these forward-thinking ideas, and that kind of got kiboshed really quickly, and he was out the door. And in the comments, Sam Fran, I don't rate him, but the Lowells are going nowhere. Paul McFarlane, Don Mackay wanted to move forward with new ideas, and the board shit themselves because money needed spent. Steve Murdoch, when the Bonnet broke the dynasty, he stated that Celtic should never be in that position again. We are now. I don't know about, we're not in the financial difficulties, but I kind of understand where you're coming from. Bill McCabe, Mark Lowell, underqualified. Go ahead.
Hey, and I was just going to say on, God, I forgot his name there, about Don Mackay.
Yeah.
the comment about Don Mackay. Who was it put it on again?
Let me see. Paul McFarlane, mate.
Paul McFarlane. Now, go and put the comment up again just so I can...
There you go.
Don't wanted to move forward with you. By all accounts, he did, right? But at the same time, off the back of him leaving in that, can't remember who it was. I think it was Giakoumakis. And all the talk then was that he'd fucked up the deals and the contracts and the sell-on fees or whatever it was. I can't mind the full ins and outs yet. So people can, again, it's that narrative you can spin against it. And I'm not defending the board here. It's that narrative you can spin any way you want. So they wanted rid of him because he had new ideas, but then at the same time, you have to caveat it with the fact that, well, it's came out that he fucked up contracts and that might be why they let him go. But at the end of the day, we're sitting a podcast, and most of the time when we're talking about the board and transfer dealings, etc., we're speculating, and we'll never be privy to it. But it makes for good debate. And if I was in the same room as you, I'd not want to use it.
I was going to say we'll be meeting in a car park after this, but at this time of night, I think that's got different connotations.
Wow. Bring your headlights and flash them, eh? But I was going to say, Ross, pouring the perfect pint and wearing the Celtic top that reminds me of Stilian Petrov. Memories. That just reminds me of it big time. But, I mean, let's speak about another transfer that could be happening, James, and just a kind of wee segue away from the debate of the board, which was quite good. I enjoyed it. Filipe Jota has been linked with West Ham, and his time at Al Ittihad hasn't gone quite well. He fell out of favour really quickly. And funny enough, their manager is now the Nottingham Forest manager. So what I just wanted to ask was, do you think Filipe Jota will end up at the top club in the European stage? I mean, West Ham could be a springboard for him to showcase his qualities, and I think he can move on quite quickly.
I think if we signed him, that would have been a quality signing. But I think he's got everything to go to the top. Obviously, we've seen it here, and he's kidding himself on if he says the Saudi move was for anything bar money. And like, fair play to him. I know, obviously, kind of politically, everybody will have their opinions, but if somebody's flinging, was it $200,000 at you, then I think I'd change my opinions pretty fast for that money, if I'm being totally honest. So, fair play to him. He's been earlier, made his money, and then he's got his. I don't say it's a big move, because I think if he performs, he'll have another big move in him. But fair play.
Yeah, I think the Steven Gerrard's team Ross was in for him, and he told him to fuck off. Apparently that was the rumour. They wanted him on loan from his parent club in Saudi Arabia. But the way I look at this is, Filipe Jota is a top talent. He was brilliant for us, and I think showcasing his qualities in the biggest stage of them all. And for me anyway, he's good enough to play for the top teams. And West Ham, as I said to James, could be that kind of springboard. Like Kieran Tierney went to Arsenal from us. I mean, Postecoglou as a manager went to Spurs. And maybe Jota could have followed that similar path, but as James said, you get that amount of money flung at you for a couple of months, you're sniffing the green there, like not that green that you smoke, but you know what I mean. and he's on his way. But do you think he'd be good in EPL?
I think he'll do all right in EPL. Listen, I think Jota for Celtic was a fantastic player. He was a big game player. Was he a top player? Did he show that? 11 goals, I think he got last season. I'm not so sure. I think he goes to West Ham, he'll do well. I don't think he could play for a top 6 club, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think he's good enough now. I don't think he was good enough when he left Celtic to go straight to like an Arsenal or even Spurs. Listen, he could go to West Ham and do really, really well, but I think he's still got a bit to prove before I would say that he would definitely play for a top English team. I think he's got West Ham, Wolves, possibly even Brighton written all over him at the minute. But top 6 remains to be seen for me. Yeah,
and there was one thing actually, James, just to come back to in that debate, Ross mentioned it a bit, and I didn't quite delve into it, right? Was Greg Taylor. So he's out for, I think it's 3 to 4 weeks as left back, and I think Ross mentioned the fact that we could maybe bring Scales to left back and play Naraki alongside Carter-Vickers and Johnson at right back. Do you think it's imperative now that we bring a left back in, And if so, do you think it should be the quality left back or a stopgap until Taylor's back in the squad?
I think it's a must. And as much as I've just absolutely slandered everybody in the boardroom, and probably rightly so, but I do think we will bring in a left back. I don't think it will be a permanent. I think it will be a loan deal, and I think our arses will be flattened now because Greg Taylor is injured. Genuinely though, it's the thing that everybody said about hypothetically all throughout the window has now happened, but the window is still open for us to get somebody in. So I think we could see somebody coming in on loan. But for me, as I said it in the summer, I've said it again in January, I think a left back and a goalkeeper was the absolute bare minimum, and I think there is little to no chances getting a goalkeeper. So we're not going to do enough for me in this window, but I do think we'll bring a left back in on loan.
I think it's funny that the goalkeeper we were linked with, Valdemarson, has signed for Brentford, 2.5 million, done his medical, 5-year contract. Nice, and again, who knows if he's going to be good or not, but he has signed for them. But what about you, Ross? I mean, you mentioned skills at left back. Would you be happy to run with that until Taylor's back in, or would you take an emergency loan left back?
I would probably go with Bernardo. The game's tomorrow. Aye, I would go with Bernardo. Tomorrow. See how he goes, and if he's shite, I would be inclined to go to a back three. To be perfectly honest with you,
a back three.
I think we could play a back three.
Well, let's get into it. Your scoring lineup prediction for tomorrow then.
I'm going to go 3-0 Celtic lineup. Joe Hart, Alistair Johnston, Carter-Vickers, probably Scales, Bernabei, midfield 3, McGregor, Bernardo, O'Reilly, Palma, Abada, Kyogo.
And your score prediction?
3-0 again, aye. So that's
3-0, yeah. double it up. And what about yourself, James? Obviously, I think Roger said that Kühn and Carter-Vickers are available, so they're considered for selection.
I would agree with Ross's team. The only change I would make is I think he'll put Ralston in at left back before Bernabei. I actually think he'll probably give Mitchell Frame a game at left back ahead of Bernabei. But I'm sure he'd done it. Don't get me wrong, it was off the bench, but he brought Ralston on to play left back in one of the games just before Christmas, I think. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that tomorrow. But I think it'll be comfortable. I think we'll beat Derek Adams, Globetrotters 5-0.
What about him, Barry? He's fucking absolute arsenal, isn't he?
By the way, he's a total idiot, man. Like, total disrespect for Scottish football as a whole. Mate, nobody else in Scottish football wanted you, apart from Ross County.
But it's the fact he's been back to them 3 times as
well. 3 times, aye. Like, some of the things he's been saying have been so harsh. It's ridiculous.
The guy,
it's incredible that he still has a job.
He must be a legend in his own living room, the guy. I mean, you look at his career, he talks as if he's like this fucking top manager. And was it Morecambe he came for? And he speaks about him as if it's fucking Barcelona. So I don't think he'll be there much longer. He seems an absolute bell end.
It's like, imagine you were...
Big-headed Brendan had more humility when he came in for Liverpool.
It's the fact he done the interview with Kenny McIntyre on BBC Sports Sound, and I think Kenny McIntyre asked him a question: "Do you regret becoming the Ross County manager?" And he was just like, "Huh?" Like, it's like, what are you doing? It's like, come on! It's like, at least save face for a bit. It's crazy. But look, for me, my lineup would be Joe Hart and goal, Johnson. I would go Vickers, Scales. No, hold on, actually, fuck that. I would go Vickers, Naraki, Scales. I agree with you, Ross. Calmac, Bernardo, O'Reilly, Kühn, Kyogo, and Palma. And see what that brings. Now, there is going to be a wee bit of a quiz here, and I was just looking at it to make sure it was okay to do. So it's international football questions. Look, just 5 questions again. We'll have a bit of a laugh, see what happens, and whoever gets
But just
the free first.
Shout it
Basically
out.
wins. Well, you can shout out if you want, sure. We'll do that. I ain't got pen and paper. I can be ours find them on.
There's no point in me shouting out because you'll just say James won.
I disagree.
I disagree.
Tons McNugget there. Fanny Adams, I think that describes him. Craig Young, working the ways, I think he managed. Paul McFarlane, Derek Adams, the biggest ham shank, and then Franny, the what we were saying there, what would his players think of him? But first question, you ready?
Right.
Right, you make sure our connection's good, Ross. In which year did Jack Charlton become manager of Ireland?
1993.
No. James?
1991.
No, both wrong. So 1986. Question 2.
Was it?
1986.
Aye.
Question 2. Which home international countries were present in the 1982 World Cup finals?
Spain and Italy.
No, home nations. So UK
Oh,
based.
say it again. Say the
That's
question
a
again.
shambles, isn't it? He gets at me and he oh wow. Right. Which home nations, home international countries were present in the 1982 World Cup finals?
I think you said the World Cup final.
Puerto Rico and Costa Rica. Anyone want to take a stab? There was 3 of them. So that narrows it down from 5.
1982 World Cup finals.
Yeah.
Scotland, England, Northern Ireland.
There you go. I'll
Was
give it to you.
82 no?
You got- Jed Thomas got it as well. That's 1-0
I
to
just
James.
did not understand that question, by the way. I really didn't. I was like, I thought it was like who was hosting it. I was like, was it no in Spain?
Ibiza's twinned
I
with
did
Blackpool
not
anyway.
understand that question. Like,
Ibiza's twinned with Blackpool, so I understand the confusion.
Right, hold on a second, right. Question 3. Which country moved to the top of the FIFA World Rankings in July 2008?
Spain.
2-0, James. Question number 4. Now, this could be a whitewash here, Ross. Come on. Let's see. Which club did Craig Burley leave to take over as Scotland's
Chelsea.
manager?
Oh, fuck.
No.
Craig
James.
Bowley?
Yeah.
Craig Brown.
Is it Craig Brown?
Scotland's manager was Craig Brown. Which club did he leave?
Yeah.
Was it Port Vale?
James?
Preston?
No, Southampton. Question 5.
I can't even.
Who was the first England manager to make David Beckham captain?
Sven-Goran Eriksson.
No.
No, it wasn't. Fuck, I know it because I watched the documentary.
That's what it was.
Aye, I did. It wasn't he Glenn Hoddle? Was it?
It's Peter Taylor.
Didn't he? I think it was Glenn Hoddle, didn't he? Wasn't he in the good terms with him? I got
Right.
absolutely lost there.
Question 6. So it's 2-0. Need to get the free here, one is.
All right.
Which former West Ham player guided Croatia to two famous wins over England?
Slaven Bilic.
James got it. 3-0.
Oh, come on. You've listened to that back, you go, oh, Russia, then I'll show it that. I disagree.
Paul McFarlane was in there. Ross will walk off the set again if he loses. Franny, Stephen getting himself nominated for Ball Bag of the Week again. Sam Fran, yes, roll on, tell him fucking nothing. Let's see. And Craig Young, it's because I look like Ronnie Corbett. Paul McFarlane with Peter Taylor, 100%. But look, lads, that brings us to the end of the podcast. If you've enjoyed it.
I think
Brilliant,
my main takeaway there was Craig Burley taking his Scotland team to Madrid for his home game.
Look, listen, I got these questions on my website, all right? Not my fault.
Does it
I know
actually
that.
say Craig Burley?
Mate, hold on a wee second, I'll show you.
It
Right.
can't, man.
It does, mate, look this thing.
Oh my god. Aye,
that's not
that
me.
quiz is null and void. That doesn't count. That was a COVID quiz.
I was on the Zoom, sitting there getting paced. But look, I do want to remind everyone in the comments as well. You can find us on all the audio platforms like Spotify, Apple, Podbean, Audible, wherever you get it. And Ross, what was it I said the other week? You can take us out when you're taking your dog for a shite and all that. No, you can do that.
It's right.
That's good crack.
When you said that.
But look, until Monday, and hopefully we're discussing a positive result against Ross County. Stay well and keep safe.
Wait.
Hail, hail.
No, that question's George Burley, by the way. It's just on the mate. It's not
George
Craig
Burley.
Brown. It's George
So
Burley.
it is, aye. So it is.
What were we going to say, Ross?
No, I was just going to say that I think James is what to say something.
Oh,
Aye,
it's
yeah,
Craig
it's
Burley.
Thunder, mate. Aye, George Burley.
I can't. It's Craig Burley, mate. It says it on the font and
Aye,
text I read. It's staying
Aye.
as Craig Burley. Stay well. Keep safe, everyone. Hail, hail.
Thank God for that.